I'm Dr. William Lee, a Harvard-trained physician, researcher, and author of Eat to Beat Disease. For the past 30 years, I've been studying how food can activate your body's own healing systems. And what I'm about to share with you today could fundamentally change the way you think about every single meal. Here's what fascinates me. What if I told you that inflammation, that silent biological process happening inside your body right now, may be the single greatest driver of cancer development? And what if I further told you that the solution isn't a pill, isn't a prescription, isn't something you have to order from a specialty pharmacy, but something sitting in your refrigerator, or growing in your garden, or available at your local grocery store? Stay with me, because at the end of this video, I'm going to reveal one particular food that researchers at Harvard and the National Cancer Institute are now calling one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory discoveries of the decade, and most people have no idea it's sitting in their kitchen right now. Now, before I explain the mechanism, I need you to understand something extraordinary about your own body. Every single day, your body creates approximately 60 billion new cells. That's more cells every single day than there are stars in 10 Milky Way galaxies. And here's what most people never consider. Each one of those 60 billion new cells is shaped, influenced, and determined by what you ate at your last meal. The nutrients, the bioactives, the compounds that travel through your bloodstream after you eat. They don't just go into your stomach and disappear. They literally become part of every new cell your body makes. This is not a metaphor. This is molecular biology. The food you eat becomes the raw material for your next generation of cells. According to the World Health Organization, 30 to 50% of all cancers are preventable through diet and lifestyle modifications. Let that number sink in for a moment. Nearly half of all cancers could potentially be avoided by what we put on our plates. This is one of the most powerful statistics in modern medicine, and it tells us something absolutely clear. Food is far more consequential than most people realize. Your body has 5 remarkable built-in defense systems that work around the clock to keep you healthy. The first is called angiogenesis, your body's ability to grow new blood vessels. The second is stem cell regeneration, your body's ability to repair and replace damaged tissue. The third is your microbiome, the 39 trillion bacteria living in your gut that influence everything from your immunity to your mood. The fourth is DNA protection, the repair mechanisms that fix damage to your genetic code every single day. And the fifth is your immune system, the surveillance network that identifies and eliminates threats before they become serious problems. At the Angiogenesis Foundation, where I serve as president, we've spent more than 2 decades studying over 250 foods and testing which ones activate these 5 defense systems and which ones suppress them. What we've discovered has been nothing short of remarkable. The research has exploded in the last 10 years, and we're now understanding things about food that we simply didn't know before. Let me share with you what the latest peer-reviewed research is revealing about inflammation and cancer. A landmark study published in Nature Reviews Cancer in 2022 examined the fundamental role that chronic inflammation plays in tumor initiation, promotion, and metastasis. The researchers demonstrated that inflammatory microenvironments create conditions that allow precancerous cells to survive, multiply, and eventually become malignant tumors. This isn't just theory. This is molecular medicine confirmed across hundreds of studies. A meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2021 examined data from over 2 million participants across 68 studies and found that individuals who consumed the highest amounts of anti-inflammatory foods had a 25% lower risk of developing cancer compared to those who consumed the lowest amounts. The inflammatory markers they measured, C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha, were consistently lower in those who ate more whole plant foods. And these aren't small studies. We're talking about some of the largest nutritional epidemiology studies ever conducted. Researchers at MD Anderson Cancer Center published findings in Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers, and Prevention in 2023 showing that the standard American diet, high in processed foods, red meat, refined sugars, and unhealthy fats, created measurable increases in systemic inflammation within just 4 weeks. But here's the remarkable finding. When participants switched to a Mediterranean-style diet rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, olive oil, and fatty fish, their inflammatory markers reversed significantly within the same time period. In just 4 weeks, the body can begin to heal itself when given the right nutritional environment. Now, I want to explain the biology behind this because it's genuinely fascinating. Here's what's happening at the cellular level. When you consume foods rich in polyphenols, compounds found in colorful plants, they enter your bloodstream within 30 to 90 minutes depending on what you ate. These polyphenols travel throughout your body and reach your tissues, where they interact with cellular receptors in ways that switch on protective genes and switch off inflammatory pathways. One of the most important mechanisms involves something called the NF-kappa B pathway, which is essentially your body's master switch for inflammation. When NF-kappa B is activated, it triggers the production of inflammatory cytokines, molecules that tell your immune system to launch an inflammatory response. This is a normal and necessary process when you're injured or infected. But when this pathway stays chronically activated, which happens when you consistently eat pro-inflammatory foods, it creates a state of low-grade, persistent inflammation that damages tissues over time. Here's where it gets really interesting for cancer risk. Chronic inflammation creates what's called a tumor microenvironment. In this environment, immune cells called macrophages are recruited to the area, but instead of fighting cancer, they can actually be reprogrammed by the inflammatory signals to support tumor growth. They release growth factors, angiogenic factors, and enzymes that break down surrounding tissue, creating space for tumors to expand. This process, where chronic inflammation co-opts the immune system to support cancer, is one of the most significant discoveries in cancer biology in the last 30 years. But here's the beautiful part. Certain foods contain compounds that directly block this inflammatory cascade. The same receptor pathways that get activated by pro-inflammatory foods can be modulated by anti-inflammatory foods. This is what the research is showing us so clearly. Let me take you deeper into one of the most fascinating mechanisms, angiogenesis and cancer. Cancer cells cannot grow beyond the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen without recruiting their own blood supply. This process of growing new blood vessels, called angiogenesis, is one of the hallmarks of cancer. Without blood vessels delivering oxygen and nutrients, tumors simply cannot grow beyond a microscopic size. This is why angiogenesis research, pioneered originally by my mentor, Dr. Judah Folkman at Harvard, has been so transformative. If you can control angiogenesis, you can potentially control cancer growth. Now here's what many people don't know. Your body normally keeps angiogenesis in perfect balance. You make exactly as many blood vessels as you need, not more, not less. This is called angiogenic balance. But when you eat certain foods, you can shift this balance. Certain foods contain natural angiogenesis inhibitors, compounds that prevent blood vessels from growing when they're not needed. And other foods contain angiogenesis stimulators, compounds that encourage blood vessel growth when it's needed for healing. The key is eating foods that promote balance rather than imbalance. Research published in Cell in 2022 demonstrated that more than 50 foods contain natural angiogenesis inhibitors, and many of these foods are common items you can find in any grocery store. Broccoli contains sulforaphane, which has been shown in studies at Johns Hopkins to inhibit angiogenesis. Tomatoes contain lycopene, particularly when cooked. A 2019 study in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry showed that lycopene-rich tomato extracts reduced blood vessel formation in laboratory models of cancer. Green tea contains EGCG, one of the most studied polyphenols in the world, with over 5,000 peer-reviewed papers documenting its effects on health. Now let me explain how your microbiome fits into this picture, because it's equally remarkable. You have approximately 39 trillion bacteria living in your gut. More bacterial cells than there are human cells in your entire body. These bacteria form an ecosystem that influences everything from how you digest food to how your immune system functions to even how your brain works. The gut microbiome has been called your second brain for good reason. What you're feeding those 39 trillion bacteria determines whether they protect you or harm you. A diverse, healthy microbiome produces short-chain fatty acids, compounds like butyrate, propionate, and acetate that have profound effects on your health. Butyrate, for example, is the primary energy source for the cells lining your colon and has been shown to have anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer properties. Research from Stanford School of Medicine published in Cell in 2022 demonstrated that people who ate a diverse diet containing at least 30 different plant foods per week had significantly more diverse gut microbiomes and higher levels of protective short-chain fatty acids than those who ate fewer than 10 plant foods per week. One particularly fascinating organism is called Akkermansia mucinifera, a beneficial bacterium that lives in your gut mucus layer and has been associated with metabolic health, reduced inflammation, and improved response to cancer treatments. Studies from the University of Leuven in Belgium, published in Nature Medicine, showed that supplementation with Akkermansia improved metabolic parameters in humans. And you can encourage the growth of Akkermansia by eating foods rich in polyphenols, particularly blueberries, blackberries, and pomegranate. This connects to what researchers call the gut-brain axis and the gut-immune axis. Your microbiome communicates directly with your immune system. When your gut bacteria are healthy and balanced, they help train your immune cells to distinguish between friend and foe, attacking genuine threats while tolerating harmless substances like food proteins and beneficial bacteria. When your microbiome is dysregulated, what scientists call dysbiosis, this communication breaks down, and your immune system can become either overactive, leading to allergies and autoimmune conditions, or underactive, leading to increased infection risk and potentially impaired cancer surveillance. Now let me connect this to your DNA protection system, which is equally extraordinary. Every single day, your DNA gets damaged approximately 10,000 times per cell from normal metabolic processes, environmental exposures, and cellular processes. Your body has remarkable repair mechanisms that fix this damage constantly, so constantly that most of the time you never even know this damage is happening. But these repair mechanisms require specific nutrients to function properly. And where do those nutrients come from? Food. The DNA repair enzymes in your body require vitamins, minerals, and bioactive compounds to function. Vitamin D, for example, is essential for DNA repair processes. Folate, found in leafy green vegetables, is critical for DNA synthesis and repair. Polyphenols like resveratrol, found in grapes and red wine, have been shown in studies at Harvard Medical School to activate DNA repair pathways. A 2023 study in Nature found that the NAD+ precursor molecules, which can be influenced by dietary components, play a critical role in maintaining DNA repair capacity as we age. The research on this has been extraordinary. Scientists at Johns Hopkins have demonstrated that sulforaphane from cruciferous vegetables upregulates the expression of genes involved in phase 2 detoxification, the body's natural system for neutralizing potential carcinogens before they can damage DNA. This is one of the reasons why diets rich in cruciferous vegetables are consistently associated with lower cancer risk across dozens of large-scale studies. So what does all this mean for you? It means that every meal is an opportunity to either support your 5 health defense systems or undermine them. It means that food isn't just fuel, it's information, it's signals that tell your body what to do. And the science is now showing us, with remarkable clarity, which foods send the most protective signals. Based on the research I've reviewed and what we've discovered at the Angiogenesis Foundation, let me share the foods I want you to focus on. The first one is cruciferous vegetables, and I want you to really understand why these are so powerful. Broccoli, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, watercress, kale, and cauliflower all contain compounds called glucosinolates. When you chop or chew these vegetables, you break open the cells, and an enzyme called myrosinase mixes with the glucosinolates to create sulforaphane and other bioactive compounds. Sulforaphane is one of the most studied plant compounds in the world, with over 1,500 peer-reviewed papers documenting its effects. Research from the Journal of Nutrition in 2021 showed that sulforaphane activates the NRF2 pathway. Think of this as your body's master antioxidant response system. When activated, NRF2 increases the production of protective enzymes that neutralize free radicals, reduce inflammation, and support detoxification. A study from the University of Pittsburgh, published in Cancer Prevention Research, found that men who consumed broccoli sprouts regularly had significantly higher levels of these protective enzymes in their prostate tissue. Here's what I find most practical. How you prepare these vegetables matters enormously. Lightly steaming broccoli for 3 to 4 minutes maximizes sulforaphane availability. Overcooking destroys the myrosinase enzyme, dramatically reducing the bioactive compounds. Raw broccoli has some sulforaphane, but less than lightly cooked. And if you chop your broccoli and let it sit for 40 to 90 minutes before cooking, you allow the myrosinase to activate the glucosinolates fully, maximizing the sulforaphane content even more. This is simple food science that can make a meaningful difference. The second food I want you to focus on is berries, particularly blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries. These colorful fruits are packed with anthocyanins, pigments that give them their deep colors and are among the most powerful anti-inflammatory compounds in nature. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry in 2023 showed that participants who consumed 1 cup of blueberries daily for 8 weeks had measurable reductions in markers of inflammation and oxidative stress. The researchers identified specific anthocyanin metabolites in the bloodstream that correlated with these protective effects. Blueberries have been extensively studied for their effects on the microbiome as well. Research from the University of Maine, published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry, demonstrated that compounds in blueberries selectively feed beneficial gut bacteria like Akkermansia and bifidobacteria while inhibiting harmful strains. This selective prebiotic effect, sometimes called an emulsifying effect on the gut microbiome, is one of the reasons why berry consumption is associated with reduced colorectal cancer risk in large epidemiological studies. For the maximum benefit, I recommend eating berries fresh or frozen. Research suggests that frozen berries retain their bioactive compounds quite well, sometimes better than fresh berries that have been shipped long distances and stored for extended periods. And here's a tip. Eat your berries with a little healthy fat, like some almonds or a tablespoon of nut butter. The anthocyanins are fat-soluble, so a small amount of fat improves their absorption. The third food I want you to prioritize is green tea, and specifically matcha, the whole leaf powdered form. Green tea contains a polyphenol called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, which is one of the most potent angiogenesis inhibitors ever discovered. Researchers at the University of Missouri, in studies that have been replicated internationally, showed that EGCG can block the signaling pathways that cancer cells use to recruit blood vessels. What this means practically is that the compounds in green tea may help prevent tumors from growing their own blood supply, a fundamental requirement for cancer progression. The pre-dimed trial, one of the largest randomized dietary intervention studies ever conducted with over 7,000 participants, included green tea as part of the Mediterranean dietary intervention and found significant reductions in cardiovascular events. But the cancer implications have also been studied extensively. Japanese researchers, particularly studying the Okinawa population known for their longevity, have documented associations between regular green tea consumption and reduced cancer risk across multiple cancer types. For maximum benefit, I recommend matcha over regular green tea because you're consuming the entire leaf rather than just an infusion. 1 cup of matcha contains the equivalent of 10 cups of regular green tea in terms of bioactive compounds. When you prepare matcha, use water that's around 175 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit, not boiling, because very hot water can degrade some of the sensitive catechins. And choose ceremonial-grade matcha from reputable sources, as the quality and bioactive content can vary significantly. The fourth food I want to highlight is extra virgin olive oil. This is one of the most extensively studied foods in the Mediterranean diet literature. The pre-dimed trial, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, showed that participants who consumed approximately 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily as part of a Mediterranean diet had a 30% reduction in major cardiovascular events compared to a low-fat control diet. But the cancer implications are equally compelling. A 2022 systematic review and meta-analysis published in PLOS One examined 32 studies and found that higher olive oil consumption was associated with significantly lower risk of overall cancer incidence. The bioactive compounds responsible for these effects include oleocanthal, a natural phenolic compound with anti-inflammatory properties similar to ibuprofen but without the side effects. Research from the University of Louisiana demonstrated that oleocanthal causes rapid and transient apoptosis, programmed cell death, in cancer cells while leaving healthy cells unaffected. This selective toxicity toward cancer cells is one of the most remarkable findings in food science research. The polyphenols in olive oil are also prebiotic, meaning they feed beneficial gut bacteria and promote microbiome diversity. Look for extra virgin olive oil that has a peppery finish. This indicates higher polyphenol content. Store it in a cool, dark place and use it within 3 to 4 months of opening, as the polyphenols degrade over time with exposure to light and oxygen. The fifth food I want to mention is fatty fish, particularly salmon, sardines, and mackerel. These fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and docosahexaenoic acid. These omega-3s are the building blocks for resolvins, protectins, and mycins, compounds that your body makes from them that actively resolve inflammation. This is critical. Most people think about reducing inflammation, which is important, but the research is showing that actively resolving inflammation once it occurs is just as important, and that's where omega-3s shine. A comprehensive review published in the Annals of Internal Medicine in 2021 analyzed data from 41 prospective studies and found that higher blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids were associated with lower overall mortality and reduced cancer risk. The mechanisms involved include the production of anti-inflammatory eicosanoids, the incorporation of omega-3s into cell membrane phospholipids where they influence cell signaling, and the direct activation of anti-inflammatory pathways. For maximum benefit, choose wild-caught fish when possible. Farmed salmon has a different fatty acid profile, with higher omega-6 and lower omega-3 content. Sardines are particularly good because they're small, short-lived fish that have less accumulated toxins than larger predatory species, and they're incredibly rich in omega-3s. Aim for 2 to 3 servings of fatty fish per week. A serving is about 3 to 4 ounces of cooked fish. Now I want to add a few more foods that are particularly worth highlighting. Mushrooms, especially shiitake, oyster, and maitake, contain compounds called beta-glucans that have been shown to modulate immune function. Research from the University of Florida, published in the Journal of Nutrition in 2022, showed that participants who consumed cooked shiitake mushrooms daily for 4 weeks had improved immune function markers, including increased natural killer cell activity, the immune cells responsible for identifying and destroying cancer cells. The beta-glucans in mushrooms appear to prime the immune system without overactivating it, a delicate balance that seems to enhance cancer surveillance. Turmeric and its primary bioactive compound, curcumin, have been extensively studied for their anti-inflammatory properties. Curcumin inhibits the NF-kappa B pathway I mentioned earlier, the master switch for inflammation, and also activates the NRF2 antioxidant response pathway. The challenge with curcumin is that it's poorly absorbed on its own. However, combining it with piperine, a compound found in black pepper, can increase bioavailability by 2,000%. Look for supplements that combine curcumin with piperine or simply add black pepper when you cook with turmeric. Garlic and onions contain organosulfur compounds that have been shown to have anti-cancer properties. Research from the University of Barcelona demonstrated that these compounds can induce apoptosis in cancer cells and inhibit angiogenesis. The key is to chop or crush garlic and let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes before cooking. This allows the allicin to fully develop. Cooking garlic immediately after chopping significantly reduces the bioactive potential. And yes, coffee. Research from the International Journal of Cancer in 2023 showed that moderate coffee consumption was associated with reduced risk of several cancers, including colorectal, liver, and endometrial cancers. The chlorogenic acids and other bioactive compounds in coffee appear to have protective effects through multiple mechanisms, including antioxidant activity, anti-inflammatory effects, and modulation of gut microbiome composition. 2 to 3 cups of coffee daily appears to be the optimal range for most people, though individual tolerance varies. Now let me share that research breakthrough I promised you at the beginning, and I think it's going to surprise you. Researchers at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign published findings in 2024 in the journal Gut, one of the most prestigious gastroenterology journals in the world, that revealed something remarkable about a food that most people have in their refrigerator right now. They studied the effects of daily consumption of one particular fermented food on inflammatory markers and microbiome composition, and what they found was striking. Participants who consumed 1 serving daily of a specific fermented food showed a significant reduction in 19 different inflammatory biomarkers within just 6 weeks. But the most remarkable finding was about the microbiome. The diversity of the gut microbiome increased substantially, and they observed increases in several species of beneficial bacteria, including Akkermansia mucinifila, which I've already told you about. And these changes were dose-dependent, meaning that more servings led to greater benefits. Do you want to know what that fermented food was? It was plain, unsweetened kefir, the traditional fermented milk drink. This is a food that your great-grandmother probably had in her kitchen that you can find in any grocery store, and that costs just a few dollars. But the science behind it is anything but simple. The combination of probiotics, prebiotics, and bioactive compounds in kefir appears to have profound effects on both the gut microbiome and systemic inflammation. And here's what's equally compelling. Korean researchers published findings in 2023 in the Journal of Functional Foods showing similar results with kimchi, another fermented food. Participants who consumed kimchi daily showed measurable reductions in body fat percentage, fasting glucose, and inflammatory markers within just 4 weeks. The fermentation process creates bioactive compounds that aren't present in the original vegetables, including short-chain fatty acids, bioavailable phytochemicals, and beneficial organic acids that support gut health. Now, let me bring this all together with what I find most compelling about this research. What we're discovering is that food isn't passive fuel. Food is information. Every time you eat, you're sending signals to your body. Signals that tell your cells what to do, whether to grow or repair, whether to inflame or calm down, whether to protect your DNA or leave it vulnerable. The compounds in food are some of the most sophisticated signaling molecules in nature, and we're just beginning to understand how to use them properly. What excites me most about this research is that it puts the power back in your hands. You don't need a prescription for broccoli. You don't need a referral for blueberries. These are foods that have been on this earth for millions of years, foods that your body has evolved to recognize, process, and respond to in protective ways. And the science is now documenting, with increasing precision, exactly which foods and which compounds provide which benefits. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone you care about. The science of food as medicine is one of the most important conversations of our time, and more people need to understand that every meal is an opportunity to either support your body's natural defense systems or undermine them. If you want to go deeper, I've created another video where I break down the specific foods that activate each of your 5 health defense systems. I think you'll find it just as fascinating. I'm Dr. William Lee. Remember, your body has an extraordinary, almost miraculous capacity to heal itself when you give it the right tools. The research is clear, the science is compelling, and the foods are available. All you have to do is choose them. I'll see you in the next video.